Welcome to this episode of our program, Daily Debate. As usual, we will be speaking about an important debate, and today we'll be shedding light on the latest rapprochement between Egypt and Turkey, a kind of an explanatory discussions went on between a Turkish delegation that visited Egypt recently and between a delegation from the foreign ministry that was led by Ambassador Hamdi Louza. And in this regards, there were some of the discussions made. Definitely Egypt has been exerting its utmost effort in order to be able to preserve the security and stability of the region, of the continent, and has been putting as priority some of the very important files in the forefront of its discussions. Throughout the history, Egypt has always been wise and a kind of calm in its dealing with critical situations. It had always, the policy of Egypt was always known to be integral with all the ethics and the principles, and hence Egypt has been trying to foresee the future in such relations and the future of what can happen in the upcoming stage. We'll be speaking about these recent discussions and the important files that were discussed during these discussions, plus of course some of the developments that are occurring in the region. We'll be speaking about that with our guest, Dr. Cherif Amir, Professor of International Relations. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Before we delve into our discussion, let's first have a quick look on this upcoming report in Egypt and Turkey conclude first explanatory talks. Let's watch.
Non-Turkish diplomatic officials concluded on Thursday 2 days of political consultations in Cairo, where they agreed to evaluate the outcomes of this round of talks and determine the next steps. Egypt and Turkey issued a joint statement on the 2-day exploratory consultations held on May 5th and 6th in Cairo. The talks were led by Egypt's Deputy Foreign Minister Hamdi Louza and Turkey's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs Sedat Onal. In a joint statement, Egypt and Turkey said that the discussions, which started on Wednesday, were frank and in-depth. According to the statement, the discussions tackled bilateral relations between the two countries and a number of regional issues, particularly the situation in Libya, Syria and Iraq, as well as the necessity of achieving peace and security in the Middle East. The joint statement said that both parties will evaluate the outcome of this round of consultations and agree on the next steps. The talks come as Turkey attempts to mend ties with Egypt and Gulf Arab states and bridge differences over several crises in the region.
Right, welcome back, and back to you, Dr. Cherif. And as I said at the very beginning, we'll be speaking about the rapprochement that took place between Egypt and Turkey, the visiting Turkish delegation to Egypt that was led by their Deputy Foreign Minister. And those discussions. Let me first ask you about the timing of the discussions and the givings of this rapprochements. How do you view the reasons behind such rapprochements, sudden rapprochements? How do you view such a visit? How do you view the timing from every aspect?
Well, first of all, Turkey and all the countries in the region and international community, they know that Egypt is the land of peace. We are always open to talk to anyone as long as there is respect of Egypt's national interest and security. And I think the timing, it concerns Turkey more than it concerns Egypt, because we have been clear from the beginning. We refuse any intervention in any other countries. We refuse any occupation of any part of the Mediterranean Sea outside the international law. Everyone has its part in it. So we were clear. I think at a certain time, Turkey was not getting this message that Egypt is very clear. We are ready to have excellent relations with everyone, but in respect of the international law. So I think that the Turkish government understood now that they have plenty of problems in the region. In comparison of Egypt's international policy, regional policy, and Turkey's regional policy, there is a huge contrast. We have the best relations with everyone, but in Turkey, they have the worst relations with everyone. So I think that they started to see that there is a contrast. They see now that the game in Syria is not in their favor. In Libya, when Egypt drew the red line, it was clear that we are serious about it. And it was not about military affairs. It was about diplomacy and intelligence and who will gain the people on the ground. And the Libyan people favored Egypt. That's what happened. That why from the beginning the Turks sent mercenaries there, because they saw that the people there are not willing to work for them. But the people in Libya, they love Egypt and they trust Egypt. So they lost the people. That's the success of the Red Line, is that we showed everyone that the Libyan people want Egypt and trust Egypt to protect them, and they do not wish to see any other foreign country intervening militarily in their land. So I think the Turks, they started to understand the equation, but let us be clear. These kind of negotiations are just trying to send some positive messages to Egypt on the diplomatic front. But let's not forget something else. Well, the problem is not between Cairo and Ankara or between the two leaders, no. There is problems in the international law, in the Mediterranean Sea.
Now, before we get into what was going on,
yes.
But let me ask you here, what I meant is, why now, why Turkey is having such rapprochement with Egypt? Are we speaking about their internal problems, or are we speaking about their foreign relations and diplomatic relations with countries in the region and big powers? Are we speaking about a new administration, U.S. administration? Are we speaking about a new policy or foreign policy to how they see the Middle East and who are favoring who? Are we speaking about new allies? Or what are we speaking about here?
We are speaking about internal calculations inside Turkey, because we all know that the system in Turkey the last few years was totalitarian, and the opposition there and many were put in prison, and the economy declined. So I think that on the internal front it's very fragile. On the outside front it's worse. I think that the relations with Iraq, for example, Turkey a few days ago, I don't understand how you wish to have good relations with the biggest Arab country, which is Egypt, and at the same time you declare that you will have a military base in northern Iraq. This is an occupation of Iraq, and even the Prime Minister of Iraq called the ambassador of Turkey asking for explanation. Same thing, did you leave Idlib? They didn't leave Idlib in Syria. This is an Arab land.
These are exactly the files that were put in the discussion.
Of course.
And we'll come to the files.
And answering to your question, I think that there's something, and the Turks realize that something is wrong in their regional policies. They lost many allies in the beginning, commercially, and with the Arab and with the Gulf countries. That's why they're trying to have good relations with Saudi Arabia now. So they lost alliances. They lost many aspirations in this region. Egypt is the stronghold and the stability and the power, the military power and the diplomacy power in the region. They cannot avoid it. So they understood there were miscalculations on several fronts. They want to save the scene now before the American administration, the new American administration, starts arranging the situation in the Middle East. Because America now is busy with Iran and with China. But at a certain time, they will be focusing on the Middle East. So I think that they want to rearrange the situation in their favor. And this, I think that time is running out for them. They won't gain really what they want at the appropriate time. That's why the timing now, they want to repair some of the damages they made the past decades.
You highlighted some of the files that were brought up in such discussions, and they included Libya, Syria, Iraq, their interference, of course, the Mediterranean gas, and many of these files. How do you view Egypt's position towards each and every file of that?
Starting with our neighboring country, Libya. We were very clear from the beginning. We refuse any foreign intervention. Although Libya is an Arab country, we were called by the authorities there to intervene. We didn't do it. We have military alliance with Libya according to the Arab Defense League. We have all the excuse to intervene, but we didn't do it. We said we respect Libya. Although it's suffering from terrorism, we have to help the people. And this is what President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi used to tell all the youth in Africa and in the Arab world. It is you, the youth, who will build your countries, not other countries who will build it for you. So that's why we're endorsing the creation of a Libyan army to fight terrorism. They could have the expertise of Egypt. Why not? And the logistic help. But we would not go by ourselves. The Turks, they violated all that. And they drew a line with the Wafaq government at the Sarraj time, and they made this weird accord which against the international law in the Mediterranean, and they sent military personnel there. This was in violation of the international law. We started to highlight this to the international community, to our friends in Italy and in Europe. We're telling them, be aware that this presence will be very harmful. Our friends in France understood that, and they started deploying their navy in the Mediterranean to stop this. So in the Libyan file, the Turks or Ankara understood it was a mess, because Egypt would not keep silent. We would not accept the occupation of an Arab country just bordering our in our borders and have historical relations with us. Turning
just on our borders, they have